Hello, Sagittarius. Welcome into your reading. This is your December predictions. We're starting out with the energy that you're going to be going into the month of December with, and also ending with the energy that you'll be leaving the month with, and all the energies in between. Let's go ahead and dive on into your reading. So, the first card that we have coming up for the energy that you are going into the month of December with is walking away. So, this could be walking away from a current life that you were dealing with, or this could be walking away from some like past tendencies. This could be walking away from a bad habit. There's many things that this could be pointing to. It's just whatever you resonate with, I do believe. But it seems like a magical moment. It almost seems like it's a little bit of a fairy tale. Maybe there's some things that are going to show up to the reason why you're walking away here in the month of December, but this is something that feels very majestic, feels like you have a lot of power within your hands, and it's almost like you making this choice. It's not something about like you being pushed away. This is something of your own power and your own decision making, and you having a lot of kind of vibrance with this energy as well. Like you have a high self-esteem with this decision, and all things are pointing into a really good direction for you going with this choice. So let's go ahead and figure out what the major timeline is going to be like here in December for you. We've got the Two of Wands in reverse. Interesting. And we have all these. Making sure that these cards are, no, they're all upright. So these cards are the only ones that are coming out in reverse here. And then we have the Four of Swords in reverse. I believe that's the Four of Swords. No, it's the Six of Swords in reverse. Sorry. And then we have the Two of Swords. There's a lot of reversals coming out for you, and that's kind of interesting. Then we have the Seven of Swords in reverse. I swear all these cards are not in reverse, but some of these that are coming out are in reverse, which is really crazy to me. And then we have the Ten of Swords in reverse. So a lot of reversals. Let me just recap, since I was kind of discovering what these cards were, is that we have the Two of Wands in reverse. We have the Six of Swords in reverse, the Two of Swords, Seven of Swords in reverse, and the Ten of Swords in reverse. So there's a lot of communication being involved here, and also a lot of decisions being involved here. And what this really means to me, and what I'm going to do, just for the imagery of this video, I'm going to flip all these cards upright, but we are going to use the reversals. There we go. Looks better. So, yeah. So, Two of Wands, Six of Swords, Seven of Swords, and Ten of Swords. So the energy that I'm feeling is that there's definitely going to be some things that you are kind of walking through, right? And there's some things that I think are, the imagery that I'm getting is kind of like, maybe you're not solidified yet. Maybe you haven't solidified your grounding. Maybe there's some things around you that you are taking in and you're taking in consideration. And there's a lot of elements at play around you. But the energy that I'm picking up on for the month of December overall is that you're a fire sign, you're Sagittarius, and you are going to be walking through a lot of fire throughout the month of December. There's going to be some things that come up here, especially to deal with communication and thoughts and, making decisions, stuff like that. And ultimately, these decisions that you make are going to be decisions that I feel like are leading you more into like a depth of fire that you're walking through. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, because the realistic approach is that you are a fire sign, you're walking through fire, so it's not like you can really be damaged in a way. And realistically, it adds a lot of, like, not necessarily fuel, but it adds a lot of more of yourself to yourself, I guess you could say, more of your personality, more of your capabilities, things like that. And it gets you really like going, kind of. And if you take a look at like some things that fire can do, fire can also cure a lot of things, right? It can also protect a lot of things. It can make a protective layer from being burned again. It can, like, say, for example, if you are doing pottery, it can cure the pottery with the heat, things like that. If you are charred, that's a protective layer. There's just a lot of, like, if you really think about it, fire can do a lot of good for, you know, the things that it touches at times. It's not necessarily a bad thing. And what this is resembling to me is that whatever these fires that you're walking through is something that like increases your tolerance. Okay. And I don't think this is something that you are necessarily being directed into. I don't think this is necessarily a path that you're being directed into. And I don't think you're necessarily looking for this outcome. I don't think you're necessarily looking for these things to happen to you. But it almost seems like the decisions that you're making, especially if you're acting outside of your normalcy and you feel called to do certain things or in certain things, it's almost like it's preparing you for these little things that happen throughout the month. And I feel like this is like free will that is happening. And whenever you invite this in, these energies, these things that happen, these events, whatever, you are increasing your tolerance against things that could potentially happen to you in the future. So that way, whenever you come across the same sequences, or you come across the same events, or maybe even some of the same things that cause certain feelings to come up, you will have a higher tolerance to not really feel that same fire. You'll be able to kind of just sit with it and say, like, you know, like, I'm okay. Like, this is not enough pressure to bother me. This is something that I am okay with, and I can just, you know, power through it and get it done and things like that. And you'll come out bigger, better, badder, whatever you want to call it. And you'll come out on the other side with, you know, that higher tolerance that I'm talking about. But this is a really interesting energy, because I don't think there's really anything to discover. I don't think there's really anything that you're going to be going out of your way for. I think it really just comes based off your free will choices and decisions. And I don't think there's really any way to get around it. And it almost seems like there's going to be a lot of false endings here. Maybe this is kind of, you know, figuring out what to walk away from, but it's not necessarily, I don't know. It's not necessarily a true ending to a lot of things. It's a false ending to several things, and you're really conflicted. You're really not sure which way to go, especially with the Two of Swords, and how to make these choices, how to make these decisions. And you're really trying to figure that out. You're really trying to discover that while being amongst that fire. It's almost like you have picked a hornet's nest in a way, and now you're trying to scramble to figure out what's the best choices while you're in this fire, even though it's not necessarily harming you like you might think. So that's kind of interesting how that major timeline is kind of playing out here. And yeah, so let's go ahead and go into the overall energy of the emotional and the physical for the month of December for you. For the emotional, we have the Hanged Man. For the physical, we have Temperance. So the Hanged Man on the emotional side calls out to me saying that you are not really allowing things to affect you on an emotional level. Like your emotional tolerance is kind of at plateau. It's not necessarily like you're deeply invested into something, and it's not like things around you can deeply invest into you in a way of kind of affecting your emotions. It almost feels like your emotions are protected. Your emotions are secure, and you are making sure that your emotions are not affecting your decision making. You're making sure that your emotions aren't really being kind of used as a crutch or kind of used as a pivot point in a way. And with the physical, with the Temperance, it feels like you are, doing the right things for yourself. You're adding a lot of purity to your life. You're adding a lot of good energy and replacing old, and just making sure that you are in alignment with yourself, and the energies that are around you are also in alignment with you. Just making sure that you are filtering out the good things and, filtering out also the bad things and discarding of those. And really just capitalizing on that energy in a physical way, making these choices, going and doing things and not just thinking about it. You're actually participating, things like that. So on a physical level, it does feel like your body is kind of realigning with where you're wanting to go. So that's really nice. And who or what is coming into the life of Sagittarius in the month of December? We have it's the Nine of Cups. The Nine of Cups. So that's an energy of like being really close to what you're wanting, being really close to that fulfilling energy. You are just in a really good place when this comes in. It's almost like you have collected a lot of things to make one thing, and now you're waiting for that final piece. And it really does just feel like you are building a really solid life. And a lot of this energy is coming based off like what you're doing throughout this physical energy and this emotional energy, and building up this tolerance, because it almost seems like you're going to have to go through some struggle, go through some pain to really like bust through that like barrier to really reach what it is that you're wanting. And it almost seems like this is kind of like a sign that's like, hey, like this is the reason why you're doing all this, because it's adding up to a lot, and you're getting to a place of this Nine of Cups to really be satisfied with what you have. So that way you can build on top of that and do more with it. So you're going to be able to kind of be in a good position throughout the month of December, even though you're walking through this fire and building up this tolerance. So it's really nice. A lot of good resources, a lot of good connections, things like that are coming into your life. So that's really nice. Who or what is leaving Sagittarius' life? We have the Four of Cups. So this is an energy of, I feel like, kind of not knowing what to do, right? I feel like there might be some clarity, there might be some energy of you understanding what really is good for you, right? And whatever this cloud of judgment I feel like is happening right now for you, this is going to be something that is leaving your life in December, where you're not going to have to worry about that cloud too much. Everything that has been hazy for a while will not be hazy. Things will start to make sense. And you won't have outside pressure to kind of like make choices, right? And you won't have to really worry about, like past things, like is all these past things leading up to something. I feel like you're going to finally see some sort of payout here, and you're not going to be so reflective of the past as much, like if what you're going through is worth it or whatever the case may be. you're going to have some sort of clarity come in for you, an understanding of like why all these things are happening, and you're not going to feel that intense pressure that maybe you have been feeling. So what is going to be the biggest change here in the month of December for Sagittarius? We have the Empress, and we have the Ten of Cups. There we go. So there's going to be a lot of things giving back to you based off, taking action and making changes for yourself and really building on the energy that feels good to you and really making sure that you are in alignment with yourself, because once you're more in alignment with yourself, there's a lot of good things that can give back to you to also feed into that energy, and that feels very rewarding to you. And with the Nine of Cups energy, I feel like you're going to be able to take these resources and kind of push into the energy of that and find that final cup, birth that final cup, because I feel like the final cup from the Nine of Cups to the Ten of Cups is going to have to come from you and your emotional standpoint and the way that you feel about yourself and the way you feel about certain things. You are the one that is creating this abundance based off how you connect to it emotionally. And I think that's just really what it takes, is that there's a lot of good things for you, but if you're not resonating with it or connecting with it on an emotional level, then it's just not going to be as rewarding. It might be rewarding to someone else, but it might not be rewarding to you. So I think really what it pulls down to is really taking care of yourself, really looking at it as like an emotional connection and providing that last cup to that fulfilling energy by having a resonant with it, right? It's got to be in an emotional fulfillment. It's got to be that Ace of Cups type of energy where you're opening up to it. You're allowing these things to fulfill you. And that's the life that you're, excited to live, is a fulfilling energy for you. And that's just where it's got to come from. It's got to come from within inside yourself and how you connect to things. And if you're not connecting with it, then it might not be for you at all. So what is it that, and I feel like the reason why it comes out in the biggest change is that you're going to be making that sort of connection and kind of finalizing that life as a fulfilling thing for you. But what is Sagittarius needing to be made aware of here in the month of December? We have Devil and the King of Cups. So I feel like there's been some mind games going on here for you, and you're not really certain about, at least towards the end of the month of December, you're not going to be very certain of like what all this information means to you, and like you're going to go through these things maybe in a subconscious way, but at the same time, you feel like maybe there's not a real clear path, or maybe there's not a really clear decision to make, and you're not really understanding of that, but it almost seems like there's some sort of illusion that you're standing behind. And I think what you need to be made aware of is there's some sort of film, there's some sort of fog over you at this time in December that could make you feel erratical, could make you make quick-witted choices impulsively, and it could be a reaction off of something, but it's not in your likeness. It's not like you to make these choices based off impulse, based off of erratical choices. And I think you need to tap into this King of Cups energy, who is not really fazed by the things that are going around them based off their situation that they're in. They're being able to compose themselves, really tap into their emotions, their true authentic emotions, and really cater to what it is that they want or what it is that they feel connected with. And they're not allowing themselves to feel energetically pulled in a direction when they know it's not their energy, like actually controlling that. So be aware that you need to like settle down, even through some of the rockiest times, the hardest times of December, and kind of just, breathe, take your time, don't jump to conclusions, don't jump to decisions, because I feel like that's just a negative energy that is attaching to you, and it's not really playing in your favor, because I feel like if you jump into something erratical, you're going to get into these, like I said, these fires at the beginning that is good for you because it increases your tolerance, but it becomes a free will thing. You're not being guided, you're not being directed into these things, and it could just be illusions that seem like you're supposed to go this way, but it's not. It's not that kind of energy at all. You're not supposed to be going to a certain direction based off something that you felt like is there when it's not really there. It's almost like seeing ghosts, where you might feel like, oh, this is a memory that I had, and the last time I had this happen, I had to do this. It's not that case anymore. You're not having to repeat the same things or repeat the same choices. You've got to be clear with yourself, be clear with your emotions, and the energy that you're going to be going out of the month with is indecision. Yeah, things are going to be tricky. Things are going to be trying to lure you a certain way, but you've got to really find that North Star. You got to really find that within your heart space and like clear out all the debris, clear out all the fog and the mist or whatever, and actually make clear-cut decisions that mean a lot to you and not what you feel like history is repeating itself, or you feel like you're being pulled a certain direction, or you're seeing these signs. I feel like signs are not going to be very clear for you at this time. The only real compass that you have in following this trajectory for yourself throughout the month of December is within your heart. Okay? Listen to your heart. Listen to what your heart is telling you, and allow your heart to be clear. Allow your heart to be cut away from any sort of, like I said, fog or distractions or illusions or anything like that. You got to be clear with yourself, and maybe that is like a meditation that you've got to do. Maybe you've got to meditate with yourself more and allow that to be kind of clearing out energies of other people, so that way you can rely on yourself. But it does seem like at the end of the month, you're going to be kind of indecision, like, oh man, like, is this the right thing? Is this, like, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what this means. So, like I said at the beginning, walking away from something could lead to all this, or maybe you are building up to that energy of walking away, like that's your mindset. So, it's an interesting read. I hope all this makes sense and resonates with you. Hopefully you're able to navigate it better than I can, because you are obviously the one living it. But like I said, hopefully this resonates. Hopefully this makes sense. If you have any questions or concerns, feel free to drop below in the comments. I'll be sure to respond. And if you have any questions stemming off this reading that you would like more answers or clarity to, feel free to click the link below in the description. I do private readings. And yeah, until next reading, I love you all so much. Take care. Bye.